Alright, Lesson 1, Chapter 1 is going to be over position and motion. The vocab for this lesson will be reference point is the starting point you choose to describe the location or position of an object. Position, an object's distance from and direction from a reference point. Motion, the process of changing position, and displacement, the difference between the initial position and the final position of an object. So describing position. To describe position, you need the following three things: a reference point, direction, and distance. Together, direction and distance make up position. Our example here would be Lincoln is about 30 miles west of Syracuse. In this case, Syracuse is the reference point because that's what we're basing everything off of. West is the direction, and 30 miles is the distance. Again, remember that direction and distance make up position. Imagine trying to describe to someone how you might get from Syracuse to Hickman. You could say that you need to go west, but that's not all the information you need, that they would need. They might end up in York if you do not give them a distance. If you don't give them a starting point, they might end up short or long as well. So that's why we need to use a reference point. And distance and direction. All three of those are very, very important parts of the problem here. The direction and distance you give will depend on the reference point that you have. Direction and distance would change depending on if we are going from Syracuse to Hickman or Lincoln to Hickman. All three pieces of information, reference point, distance, and direction, are related. If one changes, the other two will generally change. So you guys know this. If we start in Syracuse and go to Hickman, we're going west about 20 miles, right? It's going to be different if we're going from Lincoln to Hickman. Now we're going south and east. So if we change one of those things, in this case we are talking about changing the reference point, then we're going to have to change the other two things, so direction and distance. Describing position. Sometimes when describing position we use the terms positive and negative to describe direction. In this example, we would say that the shop is in the positive direction in relation to the school. So, starting at the school, we use that as our reference point. That's going to be negative 300. To go to the shop, we're going to go up 600, so it's positive 600. So, negative 300 plus 300 gives you 0, plus another 300 gets you to 600. That's going to get you to the shop. And Cosmo's house is plus 300. In reference to the school. So from the school, plus 300 gets you to Cosmo's house. While the school is in negative direction to both Cosmo's house and the shop. Right? We have to go negative in this case to get to the school from Cosmo's house or the shop. This is useful for things that are in a straight line. It's not very useful when we're describing things that are on a map or can go up and down as well as side to side. Also note that they have this marked as X. This is still an X-axis, right? Because it goes across, it goes horizontal. You can do positive and negative on a Y-axis, and a Y-axis would go up and down. Describing position in two dimensions. When you describe a position using two directions, you are using two dimensions. On a map, it might be useful to use north, south, east, and west, but it could be descriptions like right, forward, backwards, left, things like that. Locating a position is the same with two dimensions as it is with one. And the steps are: establish a reference point, specify a direction, and determine the distance. So, start at my room, take 3 steps. Like we could say to the north, and then take 50 steps to the east, and that'll get you to the end of the hall near my room. It's the same idea, we're just doing it twice now instead of just in one direction. Describing changes in position. Motion can change the position of an object to a reference point. Again, motion is the change of position. Is the driver in the car in motion? If we use the headlights of the car as a reference point, No, because the position of the man and the headlights do not change relative to each other. So in both pictures here are my headlights, here's the man in the car. They're going to be the same distance in both pictures, same distance apart. So in relation to each other, they did not move. Suppose we use the tree as a reference point, however. In this case, yes, because the distance from the tree to the man has changed. So that means that they have changed position or motion. He's changed in motion relative to the tree. Or he is in motion, excuse me, relative to the tree. In this picture, he starts on, we could call this the positive side and ends on the negative side, right? Here he's in front of the tree, here he's behind, in the second picture, he's behind the tree. Describing changes in position. Distance is the length of the path. So this is our distance. We've traveled this distance. Displacement is the difference between the first position and the final position, taking the shortest route. So here's where we started, here's where we ended. This is our displacement. This can be really important when we're talking about traveling. You might not always be able to take the shortest path when you're driving a car, right? But if we're flying, we have the shortest path. So that's going to be, we're going to have the same displacement, but we're not always going to travel the same distance. That should do it for the first set of notes.